joined us, please enter your chat and your name in the organization in the chat, and we'll get started. And if you have any questions, please enter them in the chat as well. So our first icebreaker for today is we do have some guests that we're going to be attending us today. We had Christian Martinez. I'm not sure if he's made it on from Southeast Health System Clinics. And then we have Dr. Antonio Miranda, who's going to do a presentation on some curriculums that he's worked on. And he's out of Dallas, so he's with a patient, but once he's out, he'll come in and join us at 10. So that's when we hope to transition. So we'll try to give everybody a little break between 9:45 and 10 so that we can make that transition and we can listen to his presentation. For today, our icebreaker is add a creative Zoom background, or what is your emoji for today? Nothing difficult. So it's easy. You can either have a fun background, or you can put in your emoji for the day in the chat. And hey, Cliff.
I have an avatar today.
Yeah.
It's a polar bear.
Monica has a real nice one too, daylight saving time.
How'd you do that, Cliff?
I guess it's a new feature on Zoom where they have avatars you can select now. It was pretty neat. I just discovered it right now. I was trying to think of a creative background and I couldn't beat Monica, so I just put an avatar here. Polar bear, snow background goes.
Cool. Well, thank you all. The emojis are cute. They're fun. The backgrounds, it's all stuff. Our lives are going through Zoom so much, so we try to make the best of it. So it's all good. I do want to acknowledge Cynthia Escamilla with Texas A&M AgriLife is here. She was not able to be present at our last meeting in January because she was out in a training. But Cynthia, would you like to do a quick introduction?
Yes, good morning. Good morning, everyone. This is my first meeting. My name is Cynthia Escamilla. I'm with Texas A&M Colonias program. This is my first meeting. I'm currently the regional director. I started back in November. I'm really excited to be part of this steering committee and get to, at one point, meet everyone and collaborate. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, and if you all recall, Laura Trevino was on our steering committee, and then Cynthia has taken over her spot, and Adela was taking was co-sharing on steering committee until we found a replacement, and they have finally found Cynthia, and I've met Cynthia, and she's awesome. She's already using our resources. So I am excited with all that she is going to do for us and welcoming UCD.
Great, thank you.
All right, so here we go. We have some new partners. We've been working really hard on it. As you know, we have goals to bring in partners this year. Last year was really to re-engage all our partners, refocus, and make sure that we continue on what we're doing. This year, we're really working on bringing in all the other partners that were out there that we're looking at. So, for example, the staff has been really working hard. We have a couple of wellness centers that have come on. We also been engaging with Life as a Diabetic, which this gentleman, Robert Gonzalez, has a Facebook page. If you haven't followed him or know him, follow that Life as a Diabetic Facebook page. Really informative. We met with him. He does challenges, he does recipes, he does food, you name it, he does it all. And he has, I think it's a 7,000 following of diabetics. He coaches and mentors people also. We're really, really excited to bring him on board as a partner. We're just hoping that he signs. And we're also going to go ahead and, as you know, our UCD has challenges. But now that we have a partner that does the challenges, we can support and supply him with some of our supplies and materials to continue with his challenges. That way, because he's funding it all on his own. So we can go ahead and stop doing our challenges and work with him on his challenges. So that's pretty exciting. So please follow him if you haven't, or look up his website. Then Southeast Health System, we've been engaging with them. We presented to the primary care physicians, and then some other clinics have reached out to us as well that they want to participate in our Life as Student Up campaign. and they want some of our materials as well. So we've been working with them. So hopefully we get a contract signed, a partner agreement signed with them. We're re-engaging with Children at Risk. I'm not sure if you're familiar with them. They're out of Houston, but they've been doing some work in the Rio Grande Valley. And they have a funding to do some work in the Rio Grande Valley, and we're just trying to make sure that we are good partners for each other, and that's what we're working with. If you all recall, RGV Information Exchange, or RGV HIE, which was Andrew Lombardo, is now Connected Care Exchange, and we're also re-engaging with them to see if we can go ahead and partner and work with them and try to collect some of the data. So part of our goal is to collect data for the RGV Health Connect. Well, he already has a lot of the health systems that we haven't been able to break through. And if we're able to work with him to sign a data agreement and partnership agreement, we're more likely able to access that data through him. And that's a big win for us as well. So we can actually see what the prevalence rates are in the Rio Grande Valley and new cases coming up. The other partner that we are currently had on steering committee is HEB. We've removed them from steering committee, and we removed them from the work groups. As you know, part of our bylaws require us to attend all the meetings. But if you do miss 3 meetings or more consecutively, I do need to go ahead and make that change and have a discussion and see if it's the best time for you to be with us. At this time, HEB is going through some changes. So they have said, keep us in the loop, provide us with the materials, and but we will assign someone when we're ready to do that. And as you recall, the last person that we did that to, or the last organization, was Boys and Girls Club of FAR. We did that as well. Now, I will say that for those of you that are in work groups, and some of you that are not in the work groups, if you miss 1 or 2 meetings, you're completely out of the loop. So it's really important for the work group members that attend. And I know we're struggling to keep attendance at these work group meetings, to keep at least 10 people or more. But if you miss 2 meetings consecutively, you are completely out of the loop, because the work groups and co-chairs, they work so hard, and the co-chairs are running it. I mean, we're running fast. So we try to go ahead and make sure that everybody stays on there. Any questions, concerns? Cool. Funding update, we did get Valley Baptist Legacy Foundation refunded for 2 years. So yay, we're excited. I know that it's not a given. I always panic. I don't sleep at night until I hear the letter, until I get the letter. You know, we've been trying to work so hard to make sure that we look good in their eyes, and we continue to get funding, and we move forward. So we're excited that we continue we got refunded. So that's great. UTRGV has submitted for a CDC REACH grant. It's a 5-year grant. It's $5 million, $1 million per year. They have reached out to us. We have provided a lot of support. We're working right now through some legal issues on some of, the university has so rigid information that we have to follow. So ITT is our fiscal sponsor. So the attorneys are looking at the contract, or looking at the requirements that are out there. But what it would entail, it would entail UCD being the lead on DPP classes in the Rio Grande Valley. We would have 1 program director, 4 community health workers, 100 of UCD ambassadors, all working with partners and stakeholders to provide DPP classes in the Rio Grande Valley. This doesn't take away from the current DPP classes that are going on in the Rio Grande Valley. This enhances all the programs, because we will be, if your organization already has a DPP program, we'll probably be looking to you to enhance your program and how we can support that. If it is awarded, it would be awarded on August the 30th, and we'll take off running. So any questions or concerns about that? And that is just again, it's just a grant application that was submitted or will be submitted. We haven't been awarded yet. And we're excited. We were also approached by Prairie View A&M for a letter of support, but the letter of support, the UCD's involvement was not as intense as the opportunity from UTRGV. UTRGV is really has been an outstanding partner for us right now, so kudos to them. Our website update, we continue to get a lot of traction on our website. This is just, again, for the month. from January to February. We didn't pick up the March, but people continue to visit our site, and we're really excited about that. And there's always visitors coming in. One of the things that people come looking at is Take the Steps for the Healthier Lifestyle. And they come in English, and that's the one that you scan, you do the CDC pre-test for self-assessment for diabetes, and then you access all the resources. The next thing they want to look at is about us, who we are. They look at all the community resources. They look at the Life is Soon Enough campaign. Then they also want to look at who our partners are. And then the Spanish, the login page, of course, because of course we made it to where you have to log in to access some of our resources, especially for our partners. And then we have the Take the Steps for the Healthier Lifestyle for Spanish, and then the contact the UCD, and then the staff. So any questions about this is just for the UCD website. So we're doing really good. I'm excited that people are coming into us. So you can see the numbers. They're pretty high. The traction is pretty high on how they're coming in. So that means people are coming to us. For RGV Health Connect, we continue to get tons of usage on this website, and look at the number of new users that just come to the website per month. So this is really great. And they're looking at our data, they're pulling our data. We get calls. Sarai currently is doing trainings. If you haven't attended one of their trainings, please schedule. Our goal is to meet 100 for our grant for KCCF. And we're working really hard to make sure that we get that goal for the training. But the user manual is also on RGV Health Connect that you can download and access. Now for the 10 most visited websites for RGV Health Connect, or the pages, are population, the homepage, the region, ethnicity, race, education, the indicators that we follow, household income, employment, and search. But that's just what they're coming and doing their research for. So it's for grant writing and stuff. And I did not get you the page that shows where they're coming from, because there's also a page that gives us some data of where they're coming from, or where the IP address was assessed from. But if that's something that you want to look at, we can go ahead and analyze that going forward. Any questions? I know I'm going pretty fast, but feel free to put questions in the chat. The staff will answer them, and we'll go from there. Cross-cutting indicator number 3. If you all recall, we have 4 cross-cutting indicators. Where the first one was to pick up A1C data, and we're doing that already with some of our partners. So thank you for those of you that are participating. But the next cross-cutting indicator that we want to start collecting is cross-cutting indicator number 3. This is just on social media, on all your information that you put out. I sent an email out in the beginning of February with an Excel sheet with some samples, and I gave you access to the Markham that we do at UCD. So part of this is for us to pick up the description of the post that your organization does, the social media date, was it Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, the numbers reached, the likes, reactions, any stickers, replies, clicks, comments, etc. Really simple. You don't have to pick up all of them, but pick up what you can. We don't have to do this monthly. We can do it annually. And this really is going to help us find out what is really going out in the community as far as our reach for health information. We at UCD currently, we haven't, through the MCN grant, we currently do the Facebook posts, create Facebook posts and share them with our partners, which is El Milagro and Proyecto Juan Diego. And then they're able to either use them or not use them, but we do all that work for you. So for cross-cutting indicator number 3, UCD already creates the messaging. We can provide it to each of you and to all additional partners, and you can either choose to use it or not to use it. So I think we need some discussion on this, because this is our next common indicator that we want to pick up. It's a really easy one. Do some of your organizations already pick up this for an impact report, maybe? And I'm not sure what the answer would be. So thoughts, ideas?
So Moses, you know how we do very little social media, and So, and you know what I do with the Marcom that I go and print them, like we send them to the printer and instead we do this little flyer, and I have here the new ones or some of the new ones like. So I get these ordered, and then so what we do is we distribute to the patients like that with our food bags, or at COVID site here at the clinic, and when we go out in the community. Do we give you those instead, or do you want just social media?
Well, I think it would count as a reach, because if you printed out 10,000 and you gave out 10,000, it's a reach. People are getting that information.
Okay, so you wouldn't want us to report those back. Okay, then we can do. Okay.
And we're just asking for as much as that you can provide us with. It's not do or die type deal. Sometimes Facebook Insights has been constantly changing now that they've gone to Meta and they've made some changes, and it's been a little bit difficult. But please follow up with the powers that be within your organizations and see if this is something that we're able to collect from you all. And then Sarai will be following up with all the steering committee members and our additional organizations to see if we can provide you that Marcom, because we already do them. Your marketing person can slap on their logos on there. They can go ahead and do whatever they need or just change it out, but at least it's going out. And again, we're not looking just for diabetes, mental health, behavioral health, anything, hypertension, all that kind of good stuff, because it's also, everything is interrelated, right? If you're trying to promote healthy nutrition, all that kind of good stuff.
Moses, I was looking over your metric data tracking sheet, and what I think would be really helpful is similar to what the data group before provided, that data dictionary, just to make sure that we're all in alignment, that what we understand as likes and reactions is consistent across the board. I think that would be great to have as well to complement this.
Sure. We'll make sure that we provide that data dictionary out to you all. Cool. Thank you all. Thank you. Again, don't forget, if you want to have any questions, make sure that you add them into the chat, and we can answer them, or the staff will be answering for you. All right. UCD Ambassador Initiative, Noah?
Yes, good morning, everybody. So yes, on the UCD Ambassador Initiative, so we're getting ready to launch at the end of March, early April. And we're working on the curriculum right now and the welcome packet and all the materials for that. And we're working with the Lower Rio Grande Valley AHEC to sponsor and approve for CEU for community health workers. And our goal is to have, I believe, around 100 correct Moises ambassadors that can go out and give these presentations and really get that brand, that UCD brand out there. So that's our goal on that. We're really excited on that.
So Sarai and Susie went ahead and presented to Las Promotoras de Red out of Cameron County, and they had a lot of buy-in. They were really interested in participating in the Ambassador Initiative, so we're excited about that. So there's already interest, so we're excited, and they had a lot of questions for us to create a frequently asked questions, like how many can I do per day, how many can I do per week, how many can I do per month, and again, it's something that we want to make sure that we make it as easy and understandable as possible for our partners, and especially for them, because they're the ones that we're going to fall back on if we do get this also funding from UCRGB to do this work that we're doing. Any questions? Hopefully, if you have review the ambassador packet. Dalia helped us, Leo Vela helped us create it and work on the legality and the terminology, and this is where you all come into place because you all do this in the field. And I have to just shout out to everyone, because whenever we need help, we call you all and you all are real responsive. So thank you all so much for that.
Awesome. And then work group meeting attendance. So for February, the data work group had 5 out of 7 members attend. Prediabetes education work group had 9 out of 11. I know we had a couple extra people sit in on that meeting. We also have a new work group member in that as well. And then policy, 6 out of 9 people. and then our screening was 4 out of 7. And as always, if you guys know anybody that wants to sit in on a meeting, maybe they're interested in joining, but they don't really know what it would entail, reach out to us so they can sit in and we can kind of give them that background and see if they want to join a work group. So. And then for work group updates, so prediabetes education work group, so they're trying to identify resources aimed at the college demographic and kind of encourage healthy lifelong habits, excuse me. And then we're trying to, I guess, pinpoint school events and other campus areas where the UCD staff can go out and get these materials on campus to promote that. And then also exploring ways that we can make the resources that are already available and that UCD has as well available to the promoters and community health workers so that it's more accessible and then there's that open line of communication. For screening work group updates, so identifying potential stakeholders we can distribute the Take the Steps QR code to, so coffee shops, barber shops, gyms. I know there's been a lot of ideas from our work group members. So that's one thing. Also, formulating ways we can target adolescent and that child age range with specific screening tools. I know that it's been a tricky navigating that because, you know, children and there's a lot of liabilities, right? Giving them paperwork or emails, etc. Obviously, younger kids. So we've been trying to iron that out and figure out how we could do that. And then also partnering with David Norick. I don't know if you guys are familiar with David. He's the author of The Adventures of Exo and Psi. So we're actually partnering with him and we're purchasing 100 books for our March 28th Diabetes Alert Day. And he has signs that are interactive park signs. So you place them in the park. They have a QR code on them, our UCD logo. So while you're in the park, you can scan it and it will take you to a workout. And obviously we'll be able to track views, whether that's a YouTube video, whatever it scans it to, we'll be able to track that. So we're actually in the works of getting one put in Roma right now. And once we get that ironed out, we'll be able to announce that and let all of you know.
Cool. And if you all remember during the work group meetings, we talked about, and this is an idea that we've talked about before, about in the walking trails in the cities, putting in information about diabetes and people maybe having a QR code and scanning. So thanks to Deborah, we were able to go ahead and get connected to David Norick, and he's already doing this work. And again, as collective impact, we don't want a duplication of services and we want to do it together. We asked him to share the parks that he's currently doing them in, but he wasn't doing any in Willacy or Stark County. So we asked him, okay, you know what? We'll do this. Funding is an issue for you. We do have a little bit of money. Go ahead and get the parks in Willacy County and in Stark County, and we'll supply them. We'll provide them for you. And then we'll check that mark off of our list to do. And he's already doing it, and he can do the legwork for us. And all he needed was a little bit of help. And it'll be branded UCD, and we can even track if it's being any work that he done off of it, right? So we're really excited. Again, people are all the connections that we do through you all are really interesting, and it's just growing really great, and it's growing really fast too. So it's a good thing.
Awesome. And then lastly for me, the policy work group update. So developing ways that we can gain better feedback on park conditions in colonial areas. That way we can start building specific materials out specific to that. I know we're going to utilize the promoters and community health workers, and our work group members have mentioned how becoming a voice, right? Getting that feedback, not necessarily saying that we're going to change that, but how can we become a voice and shine a light on that? And then also encouraging more meeting with the mayors. So more discussion between local municipalities, local officials, key stakeholders. That way we can kind of roll into things such as a UCD day, other ways that we can highlight UCD and what we're doing in that light. And then lastly, the social media influencers. So I guess leveraging social media and being able to broaden our reach in our brand overall. And we've been doing a great job at that. I know there's another slide coming up with some of the videos. So we'll touch on that. But yeah, that was all I had.
Yeah, so again, the work group that the ideas that come from the work group have been really awesome. They've been exciting. I was really scared approaching people, and we started approaching people that we're familiar with that are local influencers in their own right or in their own field, and slowly it's trickled off. And surprisingly, no one has really told us no. I think Susie did reach out to Elon Musk's headquarters. They did tell her no. But for the most part, other people who we're reaching out to are saying yes, and we're doing them. So right now, our goal is to do one a week. Every Monday, we highlight a new partner or a new social influencer, and for 52 weeks. And I think we're all the way up to April right now. So that is what we're doing. We're meeting with people. We're reaching out to everyone. If you know of someone in your area that's a social media influencer, let us know. We do need kids influencers, someone who influences with kids. We're looking at all age demographics. It doesn't matter. We also reached out to Makeup Queen. There's a local influencer in the Rio Grande Valley that does how to use makeup. And we reached out to her. We're still pending, and we will continue to reach out. But, everybody... There's no restrictions for us on who we're not gonna tap out. So keep that in mind. All right, Sarai.
Yeah, so as Moses was mentioning, for the cross-cutting indicator number 3, we are starting to request that information from our partners. So this is just an overview of the data work group updates. We also already started requesting cross-cutting indicator 1 for 2022 from our partners. And we do have new reports for UCD social media stats and the annual survey, the pre-diabetes risk test submissions, which is an ongoing project. And we also have a finalized report for the Workplace Wellness Initiative survey that the policy work group distributed. And we also have the final report for the 2022 Lunch and Learns. Now, I know we had already discussed the Children's with AN in Region 1 report. However, there was some updates in that, so we did have to update the report, but now it's ready to go and it's up on RGB Health Connect. The QR code scans for all the resources created by the pre-education work group also are continuing to be tracked, and the requests for UCD resources also are continuing to be tracked. So if we go on to the next slide, Moses. Okay, so for cross-cutting indicator 3, the goal of the cross-cutting indicator 3 is to increase the number of people aware of risk factors for prediabetes among the residents in the Rio Grande Valley. To track the progress towards this indicator, UCD has decided to collect the data coming in for reach from social media and other marketing tools. So for 2022, we had a total of 770,000 people reached across all social media platforms and other marketing tools. 664,000 came from radio and billboard marketing. 30,000 came from Facebook. And as you can see, February, March, and September or October were our busiest months. That's when we had the most reach. On Instagram, we were a little bit less active, but towards the end of the year, we did have more reach in November and December. And nonetheless, throughout the whole year, we had 3,731 people reached. LinkedIn as well, we had a little bit over 1,000 people reached through that platform.
So the reach is really big for us right now. As of probably tomorrow, if you're driving anywhere in the Rio Grande Valley, we have just purchased 12 billboards all over the place, and you'll start seeing messages. Of course, I know that none of you all drive 40 miles an hour on the freeway, but if you're able to slow down, you'll start seeing messages about diabetes rates, and we're going to show you all that in a little bit, but I don't want to steal Susie's thunder, but just getting you know that we're going to have that big reach. We also have the radio stations all promoting COVID and diabetes awareness right now going on, and all the radio stations, and then of course all the work that we do with social media. So again, just just realize that there's just so much going on right now at UCD, and all this is just to bring awareness. And of course, we're also highlighting our partners that are doing the work out there.
Yeah, and I just want to, can you go back really quick, Moses? And I just want to add that the success of our work group's work is really seen in the reach, because, for example, in March of last year, I know that's when we started the Move Your Way campaign, and that was actually our busiest month, or the month that we had the most reach. So as you can see, just in that month, we reached over 4,000 people. Okay, now for the annual survey for 2022, the purpose of the survey was to collect information as far as screenings and DPP programs being offered across the Valley. Here you can see that in 2022, Suclinica, Texas A&M, UT Health Houston, and Rio Grande State Center shared their data with us. This is not the finalized report. I know STJDE just submitted their numbers as well. So this will be continued to be updated. In 2021, Suclinica, El Milagro, Nuestra Clínica del Valle, and STJDA submitted their numbers for DPP and screening. Last year, we had over 25,000 DPP participants across all our partners. This year, again, this is a survey that will continue to be updated. So right now, our DPP participants are at 464. For DPP curriculums used, some of our partners reported using the Prevent Type 2 curriculum, the group lifestyle balance, cooking well with diabetes, and amongst other diabetes prevention methods mentioned were Tu Salud 50, telehealth coaching, and prediabetes medical office evaluations by a nurse practitioner. As far as screening goes, last year we did have around 42,000 screenings in total, and this year, again, based only on the surveys that have came through, we have 436 screenings.
So it seems like we're pretty covered on all 4 counties as far as for DPP classes. So that's a good thing. We will continue to reach out to people who didn't participate this year for whatever reason, but we do want to see where we're actually at, because this numbers really help us out to find out what needs to be done and where it needs to be done at.
Yes, and for the prediabetes risk test, as I mentioned, those continue to be tracked. As of February 28th, or which is at the end of last month, we had a total of 483 surveys received. The official report will not be completed until the end of March, since we decided that it'd be best to update it every quarter. We can't really compare it to 2022 just because last year we did not launch the prediabetes risk test until mid-year, which was in July. However, between that time period, between July and December 2022, we had a total of 1,151 surveys. So just this year, within 2 months, we're already almost halfway of that number.
So part of our goal also is to, we have reached out to RGV ACO to meet with them and their PCP clinics to go ahead and see they can put up the tracking, the take your risk assessment, right? The tracking spots. We also reached out to South System clinics to see if their clinics would also allow us to put those signs up. I actually go get my hair cut at Just a Cut here in Westaco, and I talked to the manager, and she's like, bring me the information. I'll talk to my manager and we'll put them all. If she says yes, we can put them throughout all the Rio Grande Valley and all the Just a Cuts. So that's a big win for us as well. People are waiting to get their haircut. They can also get screened, and we'll go from there. So, and if we've done 483 in 2 months, imagine the number that we'll get by the end of the year. People continue to get screening. So this is really going to give us an idea of where people are with their diabetes rates. And of course, one of the things we want to do is to get more males. The males have not been forthcoming as much as females, but that's just life.
Mm-hmm. So another survey sent out by the policy work group was the Workplace Wellness Initiatives Planning Survey. And the purpose of this survey was to gather information on existing workplace wellness initiatives. And so we hoped to gather information on that instead of just starting new workplace wellness initiatives. If there was already some in place throughout our partners and across community members, we did not want to duplicate efforts and create whole new workplace wellness initiatives. So from that survey, we did have 40 surveys collected. 22 of those reported that they did have a workplace initiative in place. And amongst the initiatives mentioned was diabetes related initiatives, joy in the workplace, mental health related initiatives, nutrition, and overall health. So those were the ones that those topics named. Most of them were reported to last about a year. So the incentives were a year long. And we did go ahead and ask if they had a designated coordinator for these initiatives. And for the most part, they did, which was either a manager, chief operation officer, wellness coach, or just a department member, depending on how many departments they had. And for those who responded no, we still went ahead and asked if they had anything that they wanted to share with us as far as anything that their workplace may offer in regards to health. One of the responses that came through reported that they provided library resources for them to go through and educate themselves, I guess, on health. They also had counseling for staff. They encouraged employees to run marathons. They provided healthy meals. And another workplace had offered the flu shots and COVID vaccinations and a self-administered plan. Another respondent did report that they encouraged walking as a group amongst employees for 15 to 20 minutes. Now for the lunch and learns, we did have a lot of activity last year. We had a total of 18 lunch and learns across the year. For the most part, we did have a pretty good attendance. 50% of those who registered actually attended the lunch and learns. For the most part, we had Hispanic or Latinos participate. And then after we had the lunch and learns, we did send out a survey to gather feedback as far as how the lunch and learn went. And we found out that for the most part, the 60% of participants were 55 years of age or older. A lot of them, 97% of them were females. And I know this is something that the work group has talked about how we can implement more male participation into the lunch and learns. For the knowledge gain, 95% of them did report that they had learned something new. 98% of the participants agreed that the presentation contained meaningful information. And a good 92% of them reported that they were either very satisfied or extremely satisfied with the presentation as a whole. We did also gather information on those who were not able to attend. So for the most part, they were either in another work meeting or they were out for PTO or sick leave. So other stuff out of our control. As I had mentioned, we had already worked on the children in Region 1 at risk for type 2 diabetes report. However, we did notice recently that new numbers had came in. So it was more kids screened for AN than originally reported. So we did go ahead and update this report. And now statistics show that 2 of 25 children have the AN marking. And this is still pretty high compared to Texas, the state level. And as we can see, children with AN are also showing high rates of obesity and higher rates of pre-hypertensive or hypertensive blood pressure.
Yeah. So keep in mind that as the numbers are still coming in pre-COVID, post-COVID, some of the students were not going to school, so they were not being screened for the AN markings. So that's one of the deals there. We have been asked by Andy Gonzalez to reach out to Office of Public Health at UTRGV and see if they're doing anything particular with the data. If not, then maybe we can write a white paper on this and she would lead it. But if anybody would like to co-chair or work with Andy on writing a white paper on the AN markings, let us know. And I'll get back to you all what I hear back from UTRGV Office of Public Health. Because this is really disturbing for all of us, especially for our children. If this is the rates right now, by the time they're 18, they'll be type 2 diabetic. And then cool, Elizabeth. And then just keep giving you an idea that we are working really closely with the school district. We have been working with the nurses. The staff have tons of events going on, and we're doing a lot of education with them on how we can help the kids out let them know that all our resources are available for them as well.
Yes, so the pre-education work group has been working on several projects and resources, including the traveling exhibit, parking lot signs, flyers, and posters. So to measure the reach of these resources, UCD has assigned a QR code to all these resources, which is either a pre-diabetes risk test QR code or a hydration calculator. So for example, the pre-diabetes risk test QR code is found on the traveling exhibit. It's found in a parking lot sign for El Milagro. Hope, there is also a QR code in one of the posters for Hidalgo County Precinct 4. We also have material with that QR code in IDEA, Lupe, Mission Regional, Proyecto Juan Diego, Rio Grande State Hospital, UT Health, and other community stakeholders. And here you can see the number of scans to each one of those locations. Now for the hydration calculator, we also have a different QR code, which is found either on the traveling exhibit or on the water bottle flyers. I don't know if everyone has already seen them, but in the water bottles that we do distribute, we did create a flyer. Susie created a flyer that has a QR code to a hydration calculator. But that was just launched recently, so that's the reason we don't have that many scans yet.
Right. Yeah, and again, we're just showing you the data. We know that they're out there. We're not knocking anybody, so please don't feel bad if no one scanned it at your location. We understand things happen, but in some areas also it has to be maybe about placement. So maybe we'll have to look back in a couple of months where we assess. Maybe it's the placement of it. Maybe they haven't had a chance to put it up or whatnot, but we'll reach out and keep you all posted on that. But it's working. It's great. And again, as Sara mentioned, the water bottle flyer, we just launched it. It's coming out. So it's one of those things where we want to make sure people are using it. And the traveling exhibit, the only thing I can think of is that as people walk by it, they're not really looking at the scanning of it. But we might have to make the traveling exhibits larger, wider. But that's just something that we have to reassess with the group and see where we're going there.
Right. Yeah, I just want to reiterate that some of the QR codes are found in parking lot signs, and I know last year we were using a general QR code for everyone, and recently some of our partners have switched to having their own customized not QR code, but their own customized parking lot sign. So that may be the reason why they have no scans so far. But I'm sure we'll get more as the year goes on.
Sarai, can I ask? I think I still have my background from our icebreaker. The UT Health that was listed there, is that my UT Health Houston or is that UTRGV UT Health? I think
that is UTRGV. Or let me see.
No, that is you, UT Health. The which one? The 13? The 13 scans?
Yeah.
13, I think it was.
Yeah, that's you.
Okay. All right. I just wanted to verify. Thank you.
I don't believe HRGB has asked us for one yet.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Cool. All right, let me go back. Sorry about that.
Okay, so the pre-education work group has also worked on other resources. We've been a really busy work group. But they've also been working on other resources such as the sugar display, the traveling exhibit, and the loteria, the Take the Steps posters, the health posters, the workplace wellness initiatives posters, and partner community resources. And again, all these resources are for community use. So we've been keeping track of the requests to each one of these resources to see how many people are using them. We are also collecting information. For example, if these resources will be used at an event, like what is their expected number of attendees? So we will have a report soon with that information to measure the reach of these resources as well. But for now, we only have the number of requests submitted per resource. We can see that the sugar display has gotten a lot of activity. And we have also gotten a lot of requests in for partner community resources, which include the PT2 stickers, Prevent Type 2 stickers, community partner screening referral forms, and the Know Your Number flyers.
So here are the outreach and partnership efforts for the month of February. Our outreach can look a little bit different depending on the event. Either we're going out there to do presentations, or we're out there at community events doing the sugary beverage kit and completing the pre-diabetes risk assessments. Also at times, like, we have sponsored Junior League of Harlingen. So maybe our logo will be on a shirt or on a banner out there. So yeah, we've been pretty busy for the month of February, as you can see. At other times, we're also participants in a presentation where we learned a lot about oral health and how it's related to diabetes. But we're out there just representing UCD. We also support our partners. We also went to the Hope grand opening in Weslaco. And for the partnership effort in February, we have there the Life of a Diabetic, Robert and Connie Gonzalez, which was the Facebook page that Moses was talking about earlier. And then for the month of March, we're the same, pretty busy as well. We have the community events. We recently went to the Sweet Run for STJDA, where we were helping pass out waters. We did a presentation at the Lions Club, and we have a Shrek presentation coming up on Friday. So again, our outreach can look different, but it could either be a presentation, or we're out there with our information table, or just as a sponsor as well. So the next event that we have coming up is Diabetes Alert Day. It is on Tuesday, March 28th. For this event, we're hoping, to target at least 300 people to stop by at Proyecto Juan Diego. We are offering health screenings, education, awareness, prizes, and we'll also have some speakers. We'll be giving out 2 books, and on the side here are the list of the partners that will be participating, either giving out giveaways or giving out flyers, education, health education and wellness. We'll also have the RGV food bank out there providing produce distribution. We have some smoothie bikes that are coming from Idea Public Schools. So it's definitely be fun, interactive, and we hope to see the Brownsville community out there. So for Diabetes Alert Day, this is the reach that we're expecting for the newspaper ad. So not necessarily the event that we're hosting, but Diabetes Alert Day itself. We're looking to blast the entire valley about diabetes and give them information on type 1 and type 2 and how to prevent it. We're also highlighting the work that UCD is doing. We're hitting all 4 counties with Valley Morning Star, the Brownsville Herald, El Extra, the Monitor, Raymondville Chronicle, and Starr County Town Crier. We have a predicted reach of 103,000 with all these prints, and for online reach, we're looking at around 32,000. This is a draft of what you may see. Each of the newspapers, they have their own dimensions, and so it might look a little bit different from newspaper to newspaper, but this is more or less what you would see. Recently, we had our Life is Sweet Enough kicked off at Proyecto Juan Diego. We went out there, just kind of covered, again, what Life is Sweet Enough, and answered any questions any have had. We prepared some infused waters for them, and just to get them excited to start up the new Life is Sweet Enough campaign. And these are the billboards that Moses was talking about earlier today. We were focusing on highlighting the work that UCD is doing in the RGV. We're promoting getting vaccinated against COVID-19 and how it's related to diabetes, or the complications that it can cause if you have diabetes. And then we're also promoting to reduce sugary beverages, the Life is Sweet Enough. And recently, the CDC released a study that indicates that type 2 diabetes in youth is expected to increase by 673% by 2060. So we thought it was a really important stat to highlight. And so we also included that there. These are drafts. They may look a little bit different, but they're pretty similar. We just had a little bit of move around on the logos. So for the school nurse AN initiative, this is something that we launched recently in partnership with Santa Rosa. We had gone out there to do a presentation to, I believe it was 5th or 6th graders. And so what we decided to prepare was a QR code that links to a video that talks about preventing diabetes. This video was created for the specific age group, and it's to help the students be able to take something home with them and learn about how they can prevent diabetes. It is also available in Spanish. So this flyer was sent to the nurse. The school nurse will be able to provide it to the students. Here is the water bottle insert. When we're out there in the community and we do a pre-diabetes risk assessment, we do provide a water bottle. And I thought that maybe it'd be great to come up with something that's more of a call to action. So we provide some information on the benefits of drinking water and, of course, the effects of sugary beverages. And then the QR code will take them to a hydration calculator where they can determine how much water they should be drinking per day. So these are the flyers that are inserted in the water bottle. And this one next is Noah.
Yes, thank you, Susie. So I know we had previously touched on the influencer videos. So these links on the PowerPoint, you guys can go ahead and click through and watch some of them. These are all the ones that we have upcoming that we've already put out. And you can see we have various people, Tony Flores from Ed Payne Dodge. We have Medina Real Estate, Norma Sepulveda, Mayor of Harlingen. So we're trying to really broaden and get that wide range of people. And to kind of look at some of the stats on these. So Tony Flores was the very first one we put out. And you can see the total social media reach. So combine Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn, 1,667 people. And total likes on that video was 18 amongst all of them. And I know Kara had mentioned as well, we'll kind of define reach and send that out to you guys so that way you have a better understanding of exactly what that is. But with the Medina Real Estate as well, you see 1,414 people, 19 likes. Mayor Norma, 1,002 people and 26 likes. And then David Nork was 420 people and 19 likes. And the biggest takeaway on these is that it's getting out there, it's getting seen, it's getting shared. It has UCD logos on it. We're pushing a good message, the message that we want to push out there, and then we're partnering with people that are like-minded and that represent our brand as well. So we're really happy and we're looking forward to continuing to do these. So yeah.
And if you haven't seen the videos, please log in, especially Lucas. It's really cute. It's a golden retriever. He is a mascot for Medina Real Estate. He has his own following. He has his own Instagram, his own Facebook, and he has his own following. I think he has a TikTok. I don't know if does he have a TikTok too, Saturday or no? Yes, he has a TikTok too. We have not gotten into TikTok only because it's my own personal preference not to get into it, and I'll spend all day doing that, and I will not be working for you all. So sorry. I know that I said we would take a break right before we get in. I think this is the last slide before we get into Dr. Antonio, so then we can take at least a 5-minute break. So no, who's doing? Is Noah doing this one as well?
Yeah, this was a quicker slide. But yes, these are our updated newsletters, as well as our updated video blogs. Excuse me. So you can click through, scan through them. We have a lot of different resources, upcoming events, community outreach. We obviously have our video blogs. Our latest one was with Alfred Molina. He's a community outreach ambassador for Driscoll. So you can scan through them, check them out. We've been uploading them on social media as well and doing our best to share those and get those out there. So yeah, if you guys have any questions or any comments, feel free to drop them in the chat or interject and we can get back to you on those. Yeah, thank you very much.
Cool. So yeah, so it's 9:59. I promised you all a break. Let's go ahead and take a 5-minute break. Sound good? And I do have Dr. Antonio Miranda with us today. He is our guest speaker. Andy Gonzalez, as you know, is one of our co-chairs, and she put us in contact with him. Remarkable young man, has done a lot of great work, and I was really impressed with his curriculum that he's working on, and I thought it'd be great for us to share for him to share with us, because We all that, for those of us that work in DPP and diabetes prevention programs that have tried them, we know that there's some things that work and don't work, but I've been buying that we need a Latino curriculum, especially for a population in the Rio Grande Valley. And he has this really great way of making you think about your health. And I'll share the slide with him, but with y'all. But basically, the last part that I think is I'll leave you with is when we show his slide up. It's really great. But he just at the end, the last sentence is, put simply, he is a man that cares deeply for our beloved Hispanic community. So, Dr. Antonio, take it away.
Yeah. You might have to give me access to share my screen if that's okay. Let me make sure. Yeah, if you give me access. But it's great to be here with you guys. And girls, of course.
Yeah. And if you just let the team know where you're from.
Yeah. So, and let me know, because for some reason my Zoom keeps telling me your internet is unstable, but it seems like y'all are hearing me okay. If you have any issues, just let me know and I'll jump on my iPhone. I'm in the diabetes dungeon is what we call it. We're on the lower level of the hospital, so sometimes I have problems down here. But yeah, a little bit about me so we don't have to read all this stuff. Dietitian for 5 years, just got my CDE, or diabetes specialist, certified diabetes care and education specialist, a couple weeks ago, and just finished my PhD last year. My professor said, wow, you got all the credentials. And I said, yeah, but it took me 10 years, one year per letter. And so it wasn't easy. But yeah, ultimately, I say that not out of vanity, but because just like all of you guys, like, I don't even care if you call me Dr. Antonio. Like I told my professors in my dissertation defense, I said, the reason I did all this, the RD, the diabetes specialist, the PhD, is because I just care so much about the Mexicanos and all Hispanics. I mean, like you'll see in my presentation I'm about to share, it's my life's mission, just like many of you guys, to help improve the health of this community that we care so much about. So let me go ahead and get started. Y'all can see my screen here.
Yes, sir.
Perfect. And this over here. Okay. So what we'll talk about today, and hoping that we can end up doing a collaboration. It's taking a second to load because I like to put too many visuals in my PowerPoint. Any second now. There we go. So harnessing the power of dichos for patients of Mexican origin and their families. I'll focus a lot on my research, which involved, in summary, I interviewed 40 Mexicanos, men of Mexican origin, immigrant men from Mexico. And that's a whole different culture, right? Every culture, every generation has a different culture, but we can learn a lot from our origins and from the origin of our parents. And what I ultimately came down to was, my dissertation found that dichos can be used as a linguistic tool, as a tool for educators to serve almost as like a Trojan horse to sneak in how to reframe ideas using our own cultural values and beliefs. So part one of the presentation, we'll talk about, we'll do a little dichos activity, and we'll talk about why I care so much about this community. And then I'll walk you through pretty much my dissertation project that took me 4 years and 10 years of school in total, which is understanding from this population and interviewing 40 men, looking into how they explain and understand their psychology towards health. And lastly, I developed the Dichos en la Salud curriculum, which pretty much took the diabetes prevention program, integrated all these frameworks of cultural tailoring, and it pretty much based the education on a dicho per session. And it's all done, and I need to start looking into where and how I'm going to apply it, right? So let's start with an activity, because I hate just giving boring, I'm going to talk the whole time lectures. What's your favorite dicho? And I'm going to help you out, because like I learned from the men I interviewed, palabras sacan palabras. It's hard to be put on the spot and say, oh, well, these are my top 5 dichos, because dichos are kind of like verbal chess. I say a dicho and you think of one, and you watch como dice el dicho and you think of 10 dichos. They're connected in our brain. So I'll help you out. Some of the favorite ones are camarón que se duerme, Finish the sentence. Se lo lleva la corriente. El que siembra, cosecha. Primero mis dientes que mis parientes. They're so unique, right? So I'll stop talking for a second and give you time to think for about 20 seconds. What's your favorite dicho, or what's a dicho that you've heard? Sana, sana, colita de rana. There you go. It's our brain, that's connected to all these. So think of a few more. Dime con quién andas y te diré quién eres. Very popular one. El que se duerme se lo lleva la corriente. Got it. Give me a couple more here. If not, I'll go through plenty of dichos. But either way, because like I said, it's hard to think of dichos on the spot. They're spontaneous. El que mucho embarca, poco aprieta. Okay. Se fue como burro sin mecate. See, these are hilarious, guys. And that's what I found fascinating. Mejor solo que mal acompañado. Or maybe you've heard of one, al que buena sombra what is it? Al que buena sombra se arrima, buena, oh no, I have that backwards. Al que buen árbol se arrima, buena sombra la cobija. Yeah, okay. So we could talk about those all day, and I'm obsessed with dichos. But you get the point by looking at the chat. Del dicho al hecho hay mucho trecho. These dichos are universal in the Spanish language, and I think they're more applicable in the Spanish language than they are in English, because somehow they become culturally ingrained in us. And so whether we like it or not, we learn these from our parents, and now we apply them and learn about and understand them, and our parents learn them. And every region of Mexico has different dichos, just like every region of the world has different dichos. And we'll come back to the dichos and how, as we're talking about them, you can see, wow, well, if these are existent and recognized by so many people, why aren't we using them as a more common tool purposefully as educators? And we'll get to that in a second. And Moises, until what time do you want me to give the presentation, and saving time for questions, just so I make sure I know?
You have 45 minutes for this. So till we close at 11. So if you wanna, it's up to you. It's yours.
What time did you say?
We have until 11. So
okay.
You have 30 additional minutes to go, and then questions.
Got it. Perfect. All right. So it's not an Antonio presentation or a Dr. Antonio presentation without me getting emotional when I talk about my Mexicanos. So before we get to the curriculum and all that, I want to remind us on this National Women's Day, National Dietitian Day, they end up falling on the same day this year. But really, all of you guys who work in community health, no matter in what capacity, you're probably a part of UCD because you care a lot about our community. And I'm going to tell you why I pursued a PhD in this, why I suffered through my mental health through the PhD, and why it was all worth it. Because in my PhD, I interviewed 40 Mexican origin men. And I always say that those guys are my heroes. And I can't express into words, but a better way of explaining why those guys and women, right? Because a lot of immigrants are women. It was everybody coming back in the day. And I want you, it's my homework assignment to you, is look up La Casita by Banda MS or El Corrido de Juanito by Calibre 50. But write those down. So La Casita by Banda MS and El Corrido de Juanito by Calibre 50. And if you watch those two music videos, you will understand the sacrifice that it took for people like you, our parents, and maybe even your grandparents, because you guys live in the valley and your generations are different than, but anyways, and it's such a big sacrifice. Like La Casita is the story of an immigrant who came here, and he's going to be here. He came over here as a kid, and his mom's in Mexico, his sister's in Mexico. He's here by himself, and he's going to work the next 40 years so that by the time he's old, he prays to God that he makes it back to Mexico in time so that he can retire at 65. His parents are 85, and that he can have not the American dream of riches, but to be able to have a home for his family and a little casita for himself. And that's a beautiful thing about our culture, is that It's not the American dream of my generation, of other cultures, of this mansion, of this. It's simply, vinimos aquí a triunfar, and triunfando for these brave men and women that came generations before us, or maybe your parents, was simply dropping everything they had in Mexico, coming here illegally, and potentially risking never being able to see their parents again. And that's what El Corrido de Juanito explains about, is that trabaje y trabaje todo el día, sus hijos no hablan español, and he might never see his parents again. And that's where I always get emotional when I share but I have to pay tribute to why we do this work, because I'll put down here in summary, because I'm rambling, because I love these guys. I love our Mexicanos. I love our Hispanic culture. Is that when I gave this talk last year, there was a lady who was crying, and I said, "Are you okay?" And she said, my brother tried crossing the desert from Mexico to Estados Unidos 10 years ago, and we never saw him again. And that's the sad reality. And why, to me, I owe it, and we owe it to our Mexicanos and their kids and their kids' kids, because some of those brave men and women, they never made it. And when I talked to my dad, and when I talked to the Mexicanos I interviewed for my PhD, they said, yeah, you'd see the cruces there by the river and in La Sierra and the Cerro, where they never made it. Simply these young kids just trying to make a living better for their family. And so that's a sacrifice you and I will never have to live, thank God. And it's something that we'll never fully understand, but I always pay tribute to. And then the second bullet point I have down here is that the reason I do my research, and I did and always will continue to look for ways to help our community, is that these guys came over at the age of 15, guys and girls at the age of 15, of 20, of 25, dropped everything, sacrificed everything. They were doctors in Mexico, they were whatever in Mexico, and here they had to start all over, but because they had better opportunity. And 2 years ago, when my grandma passed away, I was at the frontera waiting to go see her in the rancho one last time. And there was a guy I met, and I said, ¿Cómo le va? He said, oh, sí, de aquí voy a ir al rancho. And I said, oh, pues, ¿cuánto tiempo tienes sin ir? And he said, es la primera vez que voy a ver a mi mamá en 42 años. Man, people think I'm a hard worker. People, if you think you're a hard worker, I respect everybody here. We're all hard workers, but what a sacrifice, guys. That to me, I'll always work hard in this, because what a sacrifice. Nothing, I can't say any more than that. And the last thing I'll say on this before we get to the curriculum part, and sorry for the tears that probably you guys are having, but it's good, it means you care, is that when I finished my PhD last year and I gave my 3-hour defense, I gave a speech at the end. I was dead tired. And I told my committee, and I told the 30 people online watching, I said, you can keep the PhD, you could keep the credentials. I never cared about anything. The only thing that validated my project was that I had a friend who his dad died of COVID in 2022, January 2022. What horrible luck. Traditional Mexicano, cirrhosis, alcohol dependence, obesity, the guys that I care a lot about. And I remember I told him about my PhD, and I said, you know what? I wish I could have interviewed your dad so I could see what his perspective was, to understand Mexicanos better through him. And he asked me, he said, Antonio, what did all the other 40 guys say? And I told him what we're about to talk about. And he said, you know what, Antonio? That's what my dad would have said. And that's why I do this. And that's why I care, because we owe it to these guys. Yeah, they're stubborn. Yeah, they're hard to work with. But we owe it to them and to their kids' kids. So, all right, no more tears. Let's get to the applicable stuff. So here, you guys know the disparities of Hispanics, but we really should be looking specifically into Mexican origin men and men of Mexican descent. You guys know in the Valley, your rates of diabetes are higher than any other place in the United States. And specifically among Mexican origin men, overweight and obesity, uncontrolled chronic disease. You guys know it. That's why we're here. And for time's sake, the major drivers of obesity among the Mexican population, specifically the generation 40 to 60, but it relates to the younger generations I know you guys focus on. Pretty much I sought to answer the question, Why do these disparities exist? And what can we do about it? And this was a 4-year, 3-step process. Number 1, learn from my heroes or from the population we're trying to serve. Number 2, grasp their psychology and understand their language. And number 3, develop a curriculum. If you want a screenshot or take a picture, I can share it in the chat later. I could share it to Moises and he can send them out. These are the two articles I've published. The Health and Type 2 Diabetes Perspectives of Mexican Origin Males study, where I interviewed, well, I'll tell you in a second, where I interviewed the men. Then the Dichos and Diabetes study, where I analyzed 20 hours of language, of interviews, and I found the most common dichos that were used. And then thirdly, I'm pending publication, hopefully later this year, on Dichos en la Salud curriculum, which I'll share with you here at the end of today. So part 1, because I'm very passionate about this stuff. If you can't tell, I've done this presentation a million times and I cry every single time. But part 1 was interviewing 14 Mexicanos and asking them, ¿cuál es su percepción hacia, cuando escucha la palabra diabetes, qué piensa? ¿O qué piensa cuando escucha la palabra prediabetes? ¿Cuál es la razón en su opinión porque hay niveles elevados de diabetes en el mexicano? And because I think we've become so politically divided, not just in our politics, but in our philosophy towards patients, that now you'll get people saying, oh, well, it's because of lack of access, because of all these discriminatory markers. That plays a role, but it's not the totality of the story. And then you have the opposite, the individualists that say, well, it's only because you've got to pull yourself out of that and you've got to take control of your health. The truth is, it's both of those things, and we've got to be level-headed when we're working with our population. It's all of those factors together. We shouldn't let our politics divide our patient care. And that's why I was very proud of my work, because I went to the Mexicanos. I didn't say as an educated Mexicano, I'm going to tell everybody else why it exists. It's I went to the source and said, you guys tell me, and that's how it should be. And so these are the determinants of health as described by the Mexicanos. And I have interviewed 40 of them. Cultural customs, el gusto, the convivios, right? This is what the men described are the determinants of elevated chronic disease. Origin, formation of health behavior. A lot of these men were from the rancho. That generation didn't grow up with a hospital nearby. There wasn't a hospital for 5 hours. Reactive health culture. So valemadrismo, medico-machismo, those things are real. And I've published it, 40 pages. My dissertation was 300 pages. These are all determinants. The paradigm shift, the stress of moving from Mexico to the US and the chronic stress of being in survival mode. Of course, health literacy plays a role. Socioeconomic status plays a role. And in regards to what you guys focus on, to my understanding, which is the younger generation, which is great, a lot of it is like a retroactive gusto. Mi hijo va a comer de todo lo que guste. Mi hijo no va a sufrir como yo sufrí. So it's these cultural chains that are traveling down from generation to generation, where my dad's generation and the grandparents' generation sufrieron mucho en el rancho. So here, with all the abundance and the access, it's no, pues mi hijo no va a sufrir. And that backfires, right? Just like the fortaleza of el macho mexicano got him here and got him to overcome. And the same thing, the fuerza of the mexicana, the si se puede, that's their greatest strength, but it's also their greatest weakness because they stop paying attention to their health, or they never pay attention to it. And same thing, the amor and the love for the familia, for mijo, is the greatest strength, but it's also detrimental, as you guys see, because you've got kids who are 10, 12, 13, who their lifespan is already shortened by 20 years because of the abundance and the overconsumption of food, not just pushed by the media, but pushed by the parents and pushed by the culture. So I always emphasize that. Yeah. So these are just more responses, but let's fast forward to my second article. And again, this is all building up to the Dichos en la Salud curriculum, which we'll look at in just 5 minutes or so. When I interviewed all these men, and in the future, I'd like to interview women. It's just in research, you want to focus on a very targeted population. And so when I interviewed all these men, what I found was that dichos exist, and dichos are related. The men use dichos to explain their understanding of health behavior, of their health habits, of our culture. And these are some of the dichos that you guys will say, wow, well, that's so simple, but no one has ever organized it like that. And I'm very proud of that. So they would say, pues, nos afecta el solo Dios sabe, si Dios quiere, lo que Dios diga, cuando Dios quiera. And another one is, ayúdate que yo te ayudaré, or amar a tu prójimo. All these, we have this religiosity in our culture that influences how we view our death, our disease, our responsibility to take care of our health or not need to do it. En verdad es un pretexto. The men said, es pretexto ponerle en manos de Dios. Es nomás una frase that we're using to make it as an excuse to not take responsibility for it. But moving on. La familia es primero, aquí no es restaurante, acábate todo en el plato, échale ganas, hay que hacer la lucha. These are all dichos that exist in common language, and they influence and they describe how we were developed in our youth to understand and perceive our world and our role in our health. And I write in that article the functions of dichos for health educators. They can identify patient beliefs, si Dios quiere. It could be God as a core belief. It could be just everyday faith talk. It could be the deflection or minimization of disease risk to not have to take on that additional responsibility, so on and so forth. I'm pretty much giving you a crash course on my dissertation, so sorry if I'm going through it quickly, but we could talk about it all day. Hopefully you guys are entertained. Ultimately, what we came to the realization is that, what do we do with these dichos? If dichos exist, if the men are using them, if they exist in everyday language, why are we not purposefully integrating them to culturally tailor our programs? Because the issue with current programs is that you'll have an organization that say, well, I'm going to run a culturally tailored program for Mexicanos or for the Hispanic community. And I tell them, well, is it because you're using Spanish language? Are you talking about ensalada in the, or are you talking about tamales and tortillas? Or what exactly does tailoring a program mean? And what I explain is that you have to consider all of that, but you have to be very targeted. And I said, you have to focus on the linguistics. And a dicho is a potential tool for that. We'll skip that. Okay, so to get to the last part of this, which is the development of the dichos curriculum, here are 16 dichos that I explored. So the final project in my dissertation was, I took the diabetes prevention program, which is the national standard for the development or the framework of health interventions, because there's so much research on it. I took that program and I pretty much pulled out 5 pillars that every health session that you're ever going to present or serve to a patient is either going to relate to healthy eating, physical activity, health motivation, social support, or stress management. Those are really the 5 core pillars of health, and there's overlap. And so what we did was we pulled 16 dichos that we had from a tabla of 300, and we said, okay, we are assuming that these are dichos that can be applied to health, but let's see if the participants, and we interviewed for this phase 22 men, let's see if they recognize the dicho, if they can explain it to us, and if possible, can they relate it to a health topic so that we as educators in the future can say, oh, wow, that dicho can help with these topics. And here are the dichos. Echando a perder se aprende. Con la salud no se juega. La buena comida es la mejor medicina. Grandes males, grandes remedios. El que siembra cosecha. No hay que ahogarse en un vaso de agua. Dios rogando y con el mazo dando. Hay que echarle ganas. Hay que hacer la lucha. Mente sana en cuerpo sano. Todo cabe en un jarrito sabiéndolo acomodar. So on and so forth. My favorite one is camarón que se duerme se lo lleva la corriente. And then the last one, hombre prevenido vale por dos. And let's see what the next one. So pretty much one by one for 20 men, I asked them, hey, camarón que se duerme se lo lleva la corriente. ¿Lo reconoce? And they would say, sí o no. That's part 1. Do they recognize dichos? Part 2. Si lo reconoce, ¿cómo lo interpreta? Dice, oh, pues, pues si no te cuidas, si te descuidas en la vida, no vas a tener dinero o algo malo va a pasar. That's the gist of it, right? But then, and then I would ask him, okay, aquí están estas 5 tarjetas, healthy eating, physical, and it was all in Spanish, right? And I said, sabiendo cómo interpreta usted el dicho, ¿a cuáles de estos temas lo podíamos aplicar si vamos and I would shorten it, right? Si vamos a usar el dicho para explicar temas de salud. And I would tell them, and if you can apply it or if we shouldn't apply it, that's a perfectly good answer because we're not forcing them to give us an answer. It's con cuál lo arrimas. And so the man, fascinatingly, this is fascinating stuff to me. It seems pretty basic, but it's cool that we made it into a scientific experiment. The men said, okay, pues es bueno para la motivación. Y dije, pues, ¿por qué? Pues si te duermes en la salud, te vas a la tumba, te vas al cóctel. And I'm like, wow, look at these guys. This is amazing. The dichos are able to be extended into health sessions or into a health discussion. And same thing. So I would ask all 12 men the same question. And so I have a whole data set with all those responses. And one guy said, so camarón que se duerme, se lo lleva la corriente. Si te duermes en la comida, te toca la presión. O me dormí yo en la comida, entonces me tocó diabetes. Si te duermes en no hacer actividad física, te toca un problema. And so on and so forth. And they were able to do this with the variety of dichos. And that to me is fascinating stuff. And here are the ultimate responses. And I have a whole article on it. Let me show you actually, or I'll show you after I show you this, but here are the top 3 dichos out of those 16 for each of the health categories. So for example, for healthy eating, the men grouped these 3 dichos mostly with healthy eating. La buena comida es la mejor medicina, 12 of the 12 men. Camarón que se duerme se lo lleva la corriente, 8 of the 12 men. Hombre prevenido vale por 2. And you can see here how this is scientifically showing, and it's not advanced data, but it's kind of proof of concept that, wow, dichos can serve a purpose in this. Personal motivation, querer es poder, con la salud no se juega, hay que echarle ganas. Social support, el que siembra cosecha, dime con quién andas y te diré quién eres. No hay que ahogarse en un vaso de agua para stress management. Really cool stuff, guys. And I'll show you quickly, you guys are the first ones to see this, but this is the article that I'm working on. Dichos for Nutrition and Health Education, a qualitative investigation among Mexican origin men. But in this article that'll hopefully be published next year or later this year, I have a section in it where, here you go, I summarize the responses for all 16 dichos. So, echando a perder se aprende. Let's go to camarón que se duerme since we're already using that as a theme. So right here. Okay, so camarón que se duerme se lo lleva la corriente. All participants recognize the dicho. The participants stated that this was one of the most common Mexican dichos and that it serves as one, a reminder of the consequences of negligence, and 2, promotes alertness and attentiveness towards life's challenges. Quote, and I've translated it to English, I'll publish it in Spanish later. You need to be active, awake, and attentive toward what you are doing, or things go poorly. That's the meaning of the dicho. Then I explain the topics where it was applied to, and I give an example of how the men applied it. If you don't get active, if you don't think and reflect on what can happen to you in the future, then the truth is you're going to die. If you don't take your medications, exercise, and get motivated, if you fall asleep, then you're going to get taken by the current to the grave. Fascinating stuff. These guys are applied the dicho. Oh, sorry, give me a second. Which brings us to the last part, and I want to leave at least 20 minutes or 18 minutes for questions. So I'll go through this quick, but ultimately, given all these responses, and I showed in my dissertation that pre and post test scores were significantly improved using the curriculum. But I developed this curriculum. You see sessions 1 through 12. They have different topics, and I explain why I chose them given how the men related it. But let me just go ahead and show you the curriculum here. So this is the curriculum. I don't want to do the slideshow because it won't load, but here you see the 12 sessions I developed based on the diabetes prevention program. Bienvenidos al programa. The session can use querer es poder as the cultural linguistic framework. Comidas ricas y saludables. La buena comida es la mejor medicina. Mantenerse activo, con la salud no se juega. So you see how it's important to sprinkle our culture into our sessions. And I did it in a very organized manner. So we can go through one of these. Querer es poder. It's the dicho we introduce with. We talk about the potential consequences of obesity and not paying attention to our health. We talk about querer cuidar mi salud es poder. You're reframing the dicho. Then from there, consecuencias del descuido, beneficios de cuidar mi salud. Then you can have like a roundtable discussion. I've got a whole tabla that walks people through, like a kind of how if you use the diabetes prevention program, it's got a curriculum for the participants, but there's also a curriculum for educators. I have all of that. And then activities, cuál es su motivación, and then goals for the week. And there should have been something at the end. I guess I might have accidentally taken it out, but it should have said what it said over here. Que querer cuidar mi salud es poder. Yo sí puedo cuidar mi salud. So you're reframing the dicho. And you can use dichos to complement other dichos. So no nomás querer es poder. You could say hay que ponernos las pilas. You're using multiple dichos to deliver a succinct message. It's very cool stuff. And you guys probably already do this inadvertently, innately. We do it in our culture. So, and I just organized it for us. And in terms of the feedback, 5 out of 5 for pretty much all participants. They loved it. Again, these are really mostly Rancho Mexicanos, but likely we can utilize dichos in a different way for different populations. And in summary, what I'm showing is that dichos can serve as a linguistic Trojan horse. You're using our people's language to promote openness and familiarity and build that trust and cultural rapport. And in a positive way, you're kind of sneaking in these unique, these health concepts using cultural phrases that are dichos. And it's really cool stuff. Of course, the last thing I'll say is you have to be careful with using dichos. As long as you're respectful, that's the most important thing. But you have to really understand cómo acomodar el dicho and be confident and casual enough. Because you have to read the room, is what I always say. If you have a person crying in front of you because they have diabetes and you tell them, pues hay que ponernos, se tiene que poner las pilas. That's horrible. That's not when you use the dicho. It should be like a charla. You use it when things are calm and fluid, or you use it when someone is kind of resistant. You don't use it when someone is sad, but there are positive dichos that can uplift people, right? Dios aprieta, pero no ahorca. It's saying, hey, I know you're going through a stressful part, but después de la lluvia viene, whatever, however you say it in Spanish, but you get the point. You have to practice improving and refining your language, even if you are a Spanish speaker, to better use these. And I use them every day because it's what my research was on, and I want to share that with you guys. If a picture speaks 1,000 words, then a dicho speaks 1,000,000. Let's change ya valió to si se puede. And every generation is different. The younger generation won't necessarily be as open to dichos, but there are dichos arising all the time. Like you've got Gen Z and the younger people, no cap, for real, for real. Those are all that in the future, that'll be slang that exists in that when they're grown up. So paying attention to language is important. So it's not like this is exclusively limited to a unique population. I studied Mexicanos and studied dichos, but we need to do a better job of understanding the language of who we're working with, whether they're 8 or 80. Maybe in the future, we can implement this curriculum with you guys. We need to get organized, and I need to find a way to, if we're going to do it, might as well get some publications from it, get some results and all that. But this is a bit of not anything we have to implement immediately, but I would love to give presentations to you guys and maybe see how I can help. And sorry, I've been going so quickly, but I want to make sure we get to the questions, and there's just so much to unpack. 4 years of work and 40 minutes isn't easy. We'll get to the questions in a second. One thing I would really appreciate, I don't make a living off this. I have my own work, but if you're really interested in dichos, I have a website, antonionutrition.com. And I really encourage healthcare workers or people who are community workers To buy some of the Dichos merchandise on there, again, if you buy it, it doesn't make a difference to me, but I wear them when I give presentations to my Hispanic health groups or when I'm volunteering, because it's just kind of, it relaxes them. It says, oh, well, he's a professional, but he's kind of relaxed, y me entiende. So I have stuff on there. You could see there are mugs that say "Si se puede," camarón que se duerme se lo lleva la corriente. It's a t-shirt. I have a shirt that's got this Serape design on it, and then it says "Si se puede." That's a very popular one. I love that shirt. But yeah, we'll see. If you're interested in that, just go to that website. You can buy it or just shoot me an email. And with that being said, guys, keep up the great work that y'all are doing, and hopefully we get to work together in the future in whatever capacity. But with that, I'll take any questions. We have 15 minutes or a little more.
Cool. And you do have some questions in the chat.
Okay, so I'll answer the questions in the chat first.
Cool.
Well, interesting. A lot of dichos. What was the age range of the men you interviewed? The age range was 40 and up, because that's when you see the highest jump in rates of diabetes. It's different a bit now because of kids, but overall, you still see overwhelmingly, I can't remember the specific numbers, but from 20 to 30 and 30 to 40 and then 40 to 50, you see a much larger proportion of individuals that suddenly, or not suddenly, but develop diabetes during that age range. Were these individual interviews or group? They were individual interviews, because I found that if you use a group, la gente, or it's less open, because our cultura es mucho of que dirá la otra gente. So one-on-one, they were super open. How did you identify them? I through word of mouth, through snowball sampling, through local churches, local clinics. We set out flyers and stuff like that. And pretty much they had to be men over the age of 40. At the time, well, without diabetes initially, and then with diabetes después de eso, then they had to have a BMI greater than 30. They had to be Mexican origin, so born in Mexico. And then they had to, what was the last one? They had to predominantly Spanish speaking.
And Marisol has her hand up.
Oh, go ahead. Let me stop sharing so we can go back to the group. Go ahead.
Hi, Marisol from El Milagro. We did some DPP classes here before COVID, and then tried to continue it during COVID, but it was hard. But first of all, this is amazing. I love it. I think it's super good, super innovative. I think that it's so needed for us to have something like that for men. The big issue, though, with the DPP program, and I saw that your program, proposes 12 sessions. The DPP program has a lot more than that. It's like a year-long program, but you have to come back every week. And so one of the big things with DPP is people cannot come in every week at first, and then every month after that, right? And then also the recruiting part of it for men. I know that once you have the men and we do the details, this is going to probably be amazing, right? But the recruiting the male participant is
worst part, the hardest job in the world. Caused me so much anxiety.
And so maybe you can work on something for that.
Well, there's an article published by David Garcia out of Arizona who talks about recruitment strategies for Mexican men. And sorry, you cut out for a second. I think it's me being down here in the dungeon here, but yeah, I think the gist of it was the challenge of men aren't going to show up for 12 sessions. And then the second challenge of recruiting. Totally understand. Those are the biggest factors. So I developed a curriculum more so to follow the guidelines of the diabetes prevention program. But in reality, you guys have worked with our population, and specifically with the machista, and I mean respectfully, right? But that's conceptually, that's a major determinant. Those guys, really, we have to share this information and share our strategies with individual healthcare workers, because they might only see one doctor in 10 years, or they might, by a miracle, a fuerzas, their wives will take them to a class, and that'll be the only time they'll ever go. So that's why, for me, being medically frank is one of the most important things. Tell them the most important things then and there, give them a summary of what they've got to do. And at the end of the day, it's kind of sad, but I asked the guys, I said, hey, how do you motivate these guys? And they said, nadie va a aprender hasta que ellos mismos aprendan. Like until you hit rock bottom. And even then, a lot of the guys won't learn, but we can only do our best as educators, right? That shouldn't discourage us. So totally understand where you're coming from. We need to shorten. A long program is not ideal, but how I do it is I've grown a support group or a monthly Noche de Salud con el Doctor Antonio at a local community clinic. And we started with 5 people and now we have 40 every time, and it's men and women. And you've built that community, and then ahí sí se arriman. That's when they'll keep showing up because it's just part of their routine now. So yeah.
Cool.
Good question.
Great. Yes. Josie has her hand up as well.
Hi, good morning, or yeah, still morning, just checking. I appreciate what you put together for the curriculum. We have a small cohort, a second cohort actually going on at Idea Public Schools, and our focus is on parents of our students that come out positive with acanthosis, and also our staff, right? So our staff that are in that pre-diabetes range, we do offer the DPP program too. So obviously we have those challenges with getting people on board, and I feel like one of them could be the CDC curriculum that we do follow. As a mom, I can say that the curriculum is very similar to that they teach at WIC, right? Very generalized, not very oriented to the Hispanic community, which leads me to just appreciate what you put together. I did see that it's in Spanish. Any chance that you have it translated in English for those coconuts in the valley that know the dichos but are not fluent?
Did I do it in English? I'm trying to think. I really tried to avoid looking at my research because after I defended it last June, it was very traumatic. So it's hard to remember all of it, but I'm trying to think. I don't have the curriculum itself in English, but I have the like educator guide in English where it walks you through the sessions, what you should talk about in the activities. That's all in English. And I mean, I've learned, my PhD didn't make me smart, it just made me faster. And I could literally just say Google Slides, and you could do this, just Google Slides, copy the document and just translate it all to English and it's done. And then you go and refine.
We do that with a lot of the things that we publish, right? So we put out a Spanish cookbook, and a lot of the puns that we put don't translate perfectly to Spanish. It never works out that way, but just asking just in case. But
well, that's the thing, is that you want to leave those in Spanish because it messes with the integrity of it, right? But yeah, that's great work that you're doing, and I love that. Like I focused on the older generation because I feel like I owe it to them because it's my passion. But I'm really thankful that you guys are working with the younger generation, because the sad reality is, like, if you ask these men and women that are so hardworking and so family driven, would you rather save yourself or your kids? They're going to say my kids all day. So it's very important that you're doing that work. But yeah, I mean, hopefully in the future, if you guys just shoot me an email, and if you just need like another stakeholder opinion, I could sit in and say, hey, these are my ideas. Like I said, I'm not smarter than anybody else. I just took the time to do it. So the bigger the team that we have, the better chances we have to reach our community.
Cool. Dr. Antonio, so it's 12 sessions. How long are the sessions? Is it an hour, 2 hour? Is it a weekly, monthly, bi-weekly?
It's really what's recommended, what I would recommend, but it's not practical for our community. It's recommended like initially for the first 4 weeks weekly, and then just like the DPP, then you go to bi-weekly, then you go to monthly, bi-monthly. But for me, I always say do what's best for the patient or do what's best for the person. We should have the flexibility to, like, for example, we should have like the curriculum developed to where the patient or the participant can take it with them and they just wanted one visit. And then at the same time, for the people who like that support and the camaraderie, where they come every 2 weeks or something like that. I don't really know. How do you guys typically do it? What are y'all kind of currently doing?
At Idea, we have a hybrid program. So we set the intention on meeting at least once or twice per month in person. The participation is definitely there when we get together in person. They love it. They love the feeling of community. But we understand the challenges. And so we offer the option to meet via Teams, so we don't miss a meeting.
Yeah. How often did you say?
So following the CDC curriculum, we are meeting weekly.
Great.
Mhm.
Yeah.
We
Yeah,
have
for
had
me,
a
that's
lot of
good.
fall off, yeah, because it's
How many
we-
people do y'all have?
the first cohort started with about 5, and then towards the end of the program, they all trickled off, right? But I still took it as a win because even though they didn't continue with DPP, they all ventured out to find other avenues, right, to pursue their healthcare. So we're looking at Noom, we're looking at joining a gym and different options.
That's
But this
good.
next cohort, we've got about 7 folks, but we are still actively recruiting. Our parents is the group that we have a hard time
Cool.
getting a hold of and getting participation because, like you said, we offer the program. CDC curriculum requires them to be 18 and up, but they don't want it for themselves. They want it for
No.
their kids.
No, it's so hard, guys. I mean, that's why it's going to take a lifetime, right? It's just so hard. And you're going to be discouraged at times. I mean, I literally developed anxiety. Like I literally went on anxiety medication because I was just so beat down, like 2 steps forward, 5 steps back. But it was really a great learning experience, brutal. But yeah, when you're working with this population, it's the cultura, not just the cultura, but it was the infrastructure of if people are born in the rancho or people who are 50, 60, 45 and up. It's that back then, even in the US, like so many people were rural based. So it was one clínica, one doctor. You never go in for prevention hasta que ya te estés muriendo. And that culture persists and continues. And I mean, there's access, like you guys know, it's my biggest pet peeve when people are like, oh, well, there's lack of access for la comunidad hispana. There's a lot of access out there, but there's a lot of resistance too. So yeah, but this is good. Like the more you struggle, even if you get 5, that's 5 people that they're going to take that home with their family. And we're slowly changing the cultura over the years.
Cool. Any additional questions? I know we have 6 minutes left before we end, and but any questions? And then I want to give you all time to any shout outs to your organizations of work that you're doing. And again, there's additional comments coming in the chat, Dr. Antonio.
Yeah, I'm looking at them. Culture storage. Our staff can't get rid of the 3 p.m. snack table, and often it's the least health snacks people gift us. Oh yeah, yeah. And you know, one of my favorite dichos, this is kind of just random, but this is a very powerful dicho that you can use is nadie escarmienta en cabeza ajena. And when I heard that, I said, what in the world? And again, I'm going to publish an article which talks about the dichos that came as a result of talking about dichos. And one guy used that to explain that you're never going to force somebody to understand something until they've lived it. And that's really the reality, like for all of us, right? Like we're not going to change our financial habits till something happens. We're not going to change our eating habits. So we could talk all we want that the population is resistant, but they're resistant in health, but we're all resistant in something. But yeah, it's tough, exactly like you're saying, Tanya.
Cool.
I have
Cool,
one.
cool.
Sorry, Moses. Is the curriculum geared only towards men, or can it be used later on, or is that how you designed it just for men?
The short answer is no. Like you can use it for anybody, but I'd have to adjust it, and that's why I haven't gone back, because I need to figure out how we're going to adjust it and tailor it for different populations. It wouldn't be that hard, but like for example, the curriculum is very blunt and direct and frank, because among these traditional fuerte Mexican men, whether they're men or whether they're Mexican, whether they're white, whether they're black, there's that generation of very resistant men, and they respect that medical frankness. But it's a little bit different where I would use a bit softer language and softer dichos when you're working with like children or with women. But at the end of the day, it's como acomodas el dicho is really how it comes to it. But it'll work for everybody. It just has to be tailored.
Cool. Well, if anybody doesn't have any additional questions for Dr. Antonio, thank you so much. We appreciate it. I know you're in between patients. We'll be in touch. There's a lot of things we want to do and work with you in collaboration. I know that Andy Gonzalez also wants us to reach out to you and work on some of their projects. So thank you again for presenting with us and taking time out of your day. We really appreciate it.
And I really appreciate you guys because not gonna lie, I mean, it gets lonely because going through that PhD, it was just me and my committee, but it was just a solo journey. And I was like, one day I'll get to give presentations, I'll get to work with the community and work with the people that understand the value of it. And last thing, could you send me the recording, Moises?
Yes, I will, definitely. We'll send it to you.
Thank you guys. Dios los cuide. Talk to y'all soon.
All right. Does anyone have any shout outs for the organization? Anything questions for me? Anything that's going on? Again, we're doing Diabetes Alert Day at Puerto Juan Diego. Please join us if you're able to, if you're in Cameron County. We're looking for that to be pretty huge. South Texas Health System Hospitals is doing Diabetes Alert Week and Day. Marisol is one of our panelists there, and I believe they reached out to some other of our partners. So again, as I mentioned, we want to have it. We want to have Diabetes Alert Day all over the place. Deborah's going to be presented at ours. So again, thank you all so much. Shout outs to your organizations. Anything that's going on that you all want to shout out before we head out? Anybody? Nothing special?
Great meeting, Moses. This was great. Dr. Antonio was great. Thanks for bringing him.
Yeah. Just a reminder that the Lupe Cesar Chavez March is March 25th. The very last deadline to turn in requests for logos in the shirt for nonprofits is tomorrow. That is an absolutely hardest deadline. But we'll be taking contributions until a week before the March. If you guys like more information on attending, I can send something to Moises to share with the team. Thank you.
Thank you, Tanya. All right. Thank you all so much. We really appreciate you. And yeah, we'll be in touch.